Like any other stories, video games have been known to include many twists and turns over the years. Some are quite small and minor, while others change the entire complexion of the game. Likewise, some of these twists are amazing, and some are, well, not so amazing. Obviously, there are more than 10 twists across gaming, and these 10 aren't the 10 worst or the 10 best, but they're 10 of the most talked about. Some are pretty recent, while some have been around for ages and are still remembered. Obviously, spoilers lie ahead, so do beware. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and we're ranking 10 iconic video game plot twists from dumb to genius. Number 10, Detroit Become Human. Alice is an android! See? Nobody cares! This twist comes late on in Detroit Become Human, by which point any power it might have had has been thoroughly robbed. One of the three main protagonists in the game is Kara, a housekeeping android who rebels against her programming to run away with Alice, when she sees Alice's father is abusing her. Through Kara's motherly story, and to an extent those of Connor and Marcus, we start to connect with the androids and see them as living creatures. We're already full of empathy for them, so finding out that Alice is one adds absolutely nothing. It arguably adds a little more background to Todd's story, but right now you're probably asking yourself, who's Todd again? It's Alice's father, by the way. They wink at foreshadowing it, but not with any real depth or point to it. Detroit Become Human is probably David Cage's most narratively tight game, but this twist is probably the silliest he's ever included. It's all just very limp with no real purpose. It doesn't spring a sudden 180 twist on players, but it's still incredibly dumb. Number 9, Batman Arkham Knight, The Arkham Knight. Rocksteady did a brilliant job with the Batman Arkham trilogy, but when it came to the twist reveal of Arkham Knight, it all felt a little meh. Most players guessed who it was well before it was revealed, and those who didn't mostly weren't invested enough in the wider Batman canon to particularly care. The Arkham Knight is a young man who has a clear history with Batman and likes red clothing. If you hadn't guessed it was Jason Todd before the game did its big reveal, the twist likely had no impact anyway. In the lead-up, Rocksteady insisted Arkham Knight was an entirely new character, but most knew it would simply be the new identity of an old one. It didn't help that spin-off game Batman Arkham Origins had tried a similar rug pull, insisting Black Mask was the core villain this time, not Joker. Around a quarter of the way into the game though, Joker resumed his usual chief antagonist position to the surprise of exactly no one. The Clayface twist of Arkham City was much better, though this one tends to get discussed more. A great game with a poor twist. Number 8, Red Dead Redemption, Marston's Last Stand. This might be sacrilege putting this twist so low. In fact, it's so terrifying to do it that I want to clarify I didn't write this list. But for all the emotional impact it had, there's a few things which fall apart upon closer inspection. When John opens those doors just to be mown down by a barrage of bullets, it hits you deep in the stomach. Once the dust is settled though, there's a few things to question. It's understandable that you can't fight your way out of the scripted ending, but why are you there at all? Why would the law send you home only to track you down rather than kill you in custody? Also, because it's an open world game, there are several side quests you might not have finished by the time the game's main story ends. With John dead, you instead play as Jack, John's son. Not only is he bland, there's no explanation for his deadly skills, and playing as Jack undercuts John's entire mission to keep him away from that life. Arthur's fate in Red Dead Redemption 2 could arguably be called a twist as well, but it's more of a natural development of the story. It doesn't pull the rug from under you the way Marston's story does, and does make narrative sense. Number 7, Heavy Rain, The Killer. David Cage's second entry here, with a twist with much bigger ramifications to the overall story than the dud of Detroit Become Human. Seeing as this is a game wherein you play as 4 characters trying to track down a serial killer, the identity of the killer is clearly at the heart of it. When said killer turns out to be one of the characters you've been playing as, that makes it all the more shocking. It turns out to be Scott Shelby, the private investigator looking into the murders, except he's not looking into them so much as he is tying up loose ends. He's probably the only truly likable person in the story, so finding out he's the child murderer is a genuinely big twist. On its own though, it actually makes perfect sense. It's entirely consistent with Shelby's behavior, and clues like the watch and the typewriter, not to mention his repeated attempts to keep Lauren at arm's length, all add up. The problems lie elsewhere though, mainly with Ethan, who's set up as our main suspect. Why does he have origami? Why is Madison shocked when Scott's mother tells her Scott's name? There's too much focus on throwing us off. Number 6, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, Raiden. Kojima, you crafty little fox. There's some people who would definitely have this twist right at the bottom, buried underground with gallons of cement poured on top. When you play a Metal Gear Solid game though, you really have to roll with the punches. In a move they'd struggle to keep secret these days, Konami and Kojima pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. It's not just the hugely publicized falling out which would stop this happening today, but with so many leaks and betas spreading across the internet like wildfire, you just couldn't keep this under wraps. Though the game starts out letting you play a series hero Solid Snake, it quickly switches gears and puts you in the shoes of Raiden instead. The blonde, pasty agent is the antithesis of Snake in almost every way, and though more modern iterations of the character have been more popular, at the time he was widely despised. You bought the game to play as Snake, not this wet newspaper. It's an incredibly dumb twist, one done purely to infuriate the fans. It fits in perfectly with Metal Gear Solid's sensibilities though, so drags itself up the list. Number 5. Dragon Age Inquisition, the Dreadwolf. Dragon Age Inquisition has a fair few narrative turns across its meaty runtime, but nothing you'd really call a twist. The Inquisitor closes some rifts, kills some dragons, and defeats some evil. Job well done. Then the post-credit scene plays. This isn't your typical Marvel-style sequel bait post-credit scene. It changes the entire complexion of the story. The only real flaw it has is that it requires you to have a fairly decent knowledge of Dragon Age's lore and to have played the right bits of previous games. In the scene, we see Solus, the pure of heart squad mate, talking to Flemeth, a morally dubious character who's appeared across the trilogy. Up until this point, we've no reason to think these characters have ever met, much less know each other. Following Solus's disappearance at the end of the game, it appears he's distraught by his own victory, as it means the orb they were searching for was destroyed. Once Flemeth calls Solus Dreadwolf though, it all makes sense, if you brushed up on your lore. It means kind-hearted Solus is no ordinary elf, but instead houses a vengeful god inside of him, and is a major force of evil in Thedas. Number 4. Silent Hill 2, The Letter. While Dragon Age's Dreadwolf relies a bit too much on players doing their own homework, the top 4 here are all wonderful twists which come out of absolutely nowhere and generally hold up to scrutiny. Silent Hill 2's late game reveal is one such brilliantly compelling twist, when protagonist James Sutherland learns the truth about his wife's fate. All through the game, he's been haunted by demons bearing resemblance to his late wife Mary, and constantly meets a woman named Maria, who looks strikingly like his dearly departed. He's clearly grieving for a woman he loved deeply. The intriguing premise of the game is that James initially went to Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his wife, telling him to meet her there, despite her having passed away. He goes to uncover the truth, and boy does he find it. The letter from Mary isn't a letter at all, but a blank piece of paper. James discovers, or rediscovers technically, later on that he in fact murdered his own wife, and this whole experience has been fueled by guilt and a desire to repent. It completely wrong-foots you when it hits, and it's still one of gaming's best twists. Number 3. Bioshock, Would You Kindly? Arguably the most famous twist in gaming, Bioshock begins with your silent protagonist Jack being guided through Rapture by Atlas's voice on the radio. This voice details life in Rapture, the powers of Frank Fontaine and Andrew Ryan, instructing you where to go and what to do, all with the cheery phrase, "Would you kindly?" It turns out though that this is a hypnotic trigger phrase designed to control Jack, and that Atlas is in fact Frank Fontaine himself. As for Jack, he's Andrew Ryan's son, kidnapped by Fontaine. It's a deeply thematic twist, one which feeds into the idea of you playing a video game. You're in control, except you're not. Like any game, there's certain things you can't do. More than that though, while someone is pulling the puppet strings of Jack, it's not you, but a different person entirely. In fact, all 3 Bioshock games could be here in one way or another. Having you play as a big daddy in 2 is kind of a twist, while the always a lighthouse, always a man, always a city reveal of Infinite was deeply divisive. When it comes to legendary twists though, Would You Kindly is clearly the Bioshock king. Number 2. Portal 2, Wheatley. In Wheatley and GLaDOS, the Portal series boasts 2 of the best robots in gaming. The pair are dry-witted, memorable, and hilarious, each guiding you through Portal in their own way. Portal 1, for example, sees player character Shell being constantly toyed with and taunted by GLaDOS as you make it through the puzzles despite her quote-unquote help. Wheatley though is different. Voiced by British comedian Stephen Merchant, Wheatley is a cheery little bot who helps you on your way through Portal 2, or at least that's how it seems at first. Wheatley and Shell accidentally reactivate GLaDOS, and eventually Wheatley takes her place as the robot in control of Aperture Science. But absolute power corrupts, absolutely. Wheatley then becomes the central antagonist, forcing previous enemies GLaDOS and Shell to work together. We get to see a new side of GLaDOS this way, without the game resorting to changing her character from her popular persona in Portal 1. It's still the same old GLaDOS, united with Shell through a common cause and nothing more. By the end, GLaDOS allows Shell to escape when she retains control, but ultimately, Wheatley's betrayal is a bigger twist than her kindness. Number 1. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Darth Revan. This is the ultimate twist because it actively involves you as a player. It's not a reveal about someone else or a trick the narrative ensnares you in, but a revelation about the character you've been in control of, and the game allows you to do what you wish with it. Silent Hill 2 also concerns your player character learning a dark truth, but the narrative will continue unabated, regardless of your reaction to anything. In Knights of the Old Republic, the greatest RPG of all time, that's not the case. The game sees you as a Jedi, hopping from planet to planet trying to take down Malak, a powerful Sith Lord. Malak learned the way of the Sith from the evil Darth Revan, you to be exact. Your character is Darth Revan, the main antagonist teacher, although the Jedi Council had wiped your memories of this fact. Once you learn, the game offers you a crossroads. You can remain with the Jedi and continue to hunt Malak, atoning for your past mistakes, or if you don't see them as mistakes, you can choose to lead the Sith instead, as was your destiny. Giving you a twist and still letting you choose the outcome is genius. That's the end of our list, but let me know down in that comment box which are your favorite and least favorite plot twists in video games. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like, you can come say hello to me on my Twitter account where I'm at Jess McDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great gaming lists.